it's time to figure out my turbo placement and my rad placement. I figured out my rad placement here. Got everything kind of plumbed. This is easily attachable. And this is exactly where it's gonna sit, on an angle like that, due to my turbo location. So I'm going to mount my turbo right here. My turbo is gonna be mounted right about here. I'm gonna have to make a pipe to go from this exhaust to the T3 flange. I'm gonna have to get a wastegate dump off of that, down there. And then I'm gonna have to bring my exhaust all the way through here, and with a muffler and exhaust over there. It's going to be very tight to get my wastegate out and my exhaust through all this crap and over there. But I'm willing to take the task on. And I'm gonna start by cutting a little bit out of this plastic guard so the turbo has room to sit in. And it's just gonna be behind here like this, right there. It's gonna be a really sick setup, but it's gonna be so freaking hard to do it. So I better get a start on it. I'm gonna make a mark where I'm gonna cut out so I can fit my turbo in there. Now bumper needs to come off and I need to take a big cut out of that, and then I can start doing exhaust. Bar, and that's where she's gonna sit. I'm gonna have to go and get the hood to make sure I'm gonna clear the hood. I have to get the hood to make sure that I'm not gonna have hood clearance issues later, but that's what I'm thinking right there. So here's the look I'm kind of going for. Seeing the inlet through that little guy, and then when you pop the hood you'll see the turbo too. Through the front grille right there. Okay, I'm just gonna place the turbo up and use the camera as a reference later for how high I can go. While I was under there, I made a mark where it's getting close to the hood, and I'm gonna have to cut that out because it's gotta go a little bit higher. As you can see, it came about halfway up. It's gotta come up more to get that air in, right? All right, she's all marked up. I just got to follow this black line, and then I should have plenty of room for the turbo. That's how much room I'm gonna gain, which is definitely gonna be enough, and have some room to spare. Okay, my hood's back on, and I'm gonna give her a shot with the fitment again and see how it looks. Okay, so that's touching right there. I need some room between the hood and the turbo, obviously, so I'm just gonna bring her down 1/2 inch. And that's where she is gonna sit. Hopefully that's good. I'm gonna have to take a look at the camera. Okay, I just threw a piece of tape on here just so I can make a mark, and then when I watch the video I can use it as reference to where I'm putting it underneath, and I have to match that. If I don't, things are gonna get mixed up, and then the hood and the hole in the hood's gonna be off, or my piping's gonna be off, you know what I mean? So do it once, do it right. So I'm just gonna make a mark here and then use that as reference. I'll get you closer there. Okay, here we go. I'll say when it's lined up. Okay, right there. Right there's perfect. So that's where she's gonna sit. Now I'll take a look at the video and look at the mark and see where I was in reference. Okay, I made another mark there. I'm gonna try it again. Right there. All right, so I moved over my second mark a little bit because I was slightly off. but that's where the inlet center has to be. Right in between where the red paint starts here and the bottom red paint starts here. So it's got to be right in the center, right there. That's exactly where the eye of the turbo goes, and everything should fit. The hood will fit, bumper bash bar, all that should work perfectly. I removed that little mesh piece of plastic just so it's a little easier to see, because I don't want to make this mistake, guys. Do not want to make this mistake. Got the light on, we're good to go.
The reason why I'm underneath placing the turbo in there is because I have the hood on and I need to make sure the turbo's in the right spot, and I can't do that from the top. So I'm making a mark on the bumper, so when I'm mounting this turbo from the top, I can tell what place to put it at so no mistakes are made.
Okay, perfect. That is exactly how I want it. It was a lot easier without that mesh on. So now I need to make sure my engine mounts are fully secure. I'm 99% sure they are, but I have to make sure just in case if I started welding all this stuff up and I tightened an engine mount and the engine raised a little bit. These engine mounts are a little funky on the passenger side, so I have to make sure it's stationary before I start doing any welding, because if I tighten it up later, it could go up and hit the hood, you know what I mean? So gotta make sure. Okay, I got my turbo in place where it's supposed to be, and I have to get that pipe into this turbo T3 flange. So I'm gonna bolt up the T3 flange, get the V-band on, and then I'm gonna make a million cuts and start making up a pipe. I'm gonna cut some of my 2.5 inch, which is what is going to be on the hot side of my turbo. I'm gonna do a couple really drastic ones. I'm gonna do a few drastic pie cuts. I've got it set to 15 degrees, and that's quite a bit for a pie cut, but I think I might need some just to get that tight bend, but I'll make a whole bunch of different sizes. Alright, I got a bunch of 2.5 cut. I'm going to start with this. This should do enough to get the turbo attached to the pipe that's coming up from the collector. So I'll start with this and we'll see where that gets me. I've just got to sand them up, get them ready for welding, and then I'll be good to go tomorrow for welding. Alright, I got about 10-15 pieces ready to go. And tomorrow I'll continue with mounting my turbo for the first time. It's gonna be badass. Almost there. Hey, today's a new day and I'm gonna continue on my turbo setup. I'm gonna bring my turbo up to here. So my exhaust needs to be welded all like this. And I'm gonna do pie cuts, as you know. V-band is already on, and on my turbo I have the T3 flange bolted on so I can start welding. Right now I'm just cutting pieces of wood to put underneath my turbo to hold the turbo in the right place so I can start making my S-shaped looking pipe. And a spacer piece of wood because I wanted it higher. And I've mounted the turbo up. So I've got it right in the center of my line and right in the center of this opening. That is exactly what I wanted and exactly what I measured out. So just to be sure, I'm gonna put the hood on and make sure this does not hit the hood, because there's also going to be a clamp and a rubber on top of here. So I got to make sure all that's going to work. But if that's good to go, then I can make up my little S pipe to go right in there. Hood's on. Turbo's laid up exactly how I said and wanted. It's looking sick. Jeez. It fits perfectly. Where I cut out of the hood is mint. That is a great starting point. I don't think I'm gonna have to even adjust it. So now I'm just gonna start and see what kind of pipe I need to make. Okay, so my turbo is literally on there by a zip tie, and it's standing on 2 sketchy pieces of wood, just on each bolt there. So I'm gonna have to be really careful mocking this up. Like, I can't even breathe too hard. Somehow I got the hood on and off without it falling, and that's sick. But I still have to continue to be careful. So I'm gonna start putting pieces on and seeing where I've got to be. I've kind of just decided that it's not going to be practical to come out and go in such a hard angle. So I'm going to turn the hot side counterclockwise a bit so it's an easier shot in, but it's also going to have to come up a bit. I'm going to move that. This is what it's gonna be. It's all tacked up. Fits exactly how I wanted it. Pretty happy with that. So now I'm gonna do about 5 tacks more on each piece so it doesn't warp, and then weld it up and then mock that turbo up as best as I can. Okay, I've got 5 tacks on each joint, so it's not gonna warp too much for me. Now I'm going to weld it up fully and then see how. She's hot, but she is looking awesome. Dang. Honestly, in person, it looks even better. Oh, that's a little bit of melted plastic from my thing I was using to hold it. She's warm, but that doesn't scare me. Okay, now it's time for me to try this out and see how it's gonna fit. That's tight. Spinning and mocking up. Oh, wow. That fits really good. I just tried the turbo with this pipe and it fits nearly perfect. First try, which is awesome. Saves me time. Also makes me look like I know what I'm doing. Anyways, I'm just gonna take a little bit off of here just so my turbo sits closer to the line I originally made. I'm just off by about 1/4 of an inch, so it shouldn't take much because it's just angles now, because a 16th taken off of here will probably exaggerate me at least 3/16. So I'm just gonna be going back and forth from the edge sander and making sure this fits perfect. So what I'm doing here on the edge sander is I'm just gonna make this angle a little bit different. So I'm probably gonna be changing it about this much. I mocked the turbo onto it and I noticed that my bumper's in the way for me going in further. So I'm gonna just cut out a little bit of the top of the bumper. You'll never see it, but that's how she's sitting. It's exactly on the line I wanted if I held it straight. But yeah, I'm just gonna cut that out so I can start tacking stuff up. And see how it's got gaps everywhere on the edges? I have to do the same thing. I have to do the good old hammer maneuver. Hammer it until it fits perfect. Cool, I got a little opening cut out, which probably doesn't look good to you, but from the front you can't see it. The only way you would see it is if you looked underneath, and it actually is well done, so it should be fine. The bumper is like near on the ground when the car is on the ground, so like it's not ever gonna be seen. All it's gonna do is get my turbo that much closer and look that much better. Okay, let's see how it fits now. Right about there, and then boom, and then I keep moving it right about there. Cool. Now I've got to mark where it needs hammered so everything can fit and everybody's happy. Hammered it out a bit. I had to end up decking the face of it, because when I hammered it out, it actually distorted the front, which is fine, but you just got to make sure it's all flat or it's not going to mate up to that T3 flange well. So, since now I am 100% on my turbo location and everything's all set up, lined up, I just checked everything out. Now I can tack this pipe to the V-band that I've got here. Then I can concentrate on just welding turbo T3 flange on. And that's when all the happiness starts. Okay, I'm just gonna throw a tack right here and then one right there. Okay, I got 3 tacks on it. That should be plenty to have it stable. So now I'm gonna set up the turbo and do the best I can to tack this alone. Obviously I do everything by myself, but this is gonna be really hard to hold the 30-pound turbo and then tack it. And for thick metal to thin, you need to add filler. So I need 2 hands, and I only have 2 hands to hold the turbo and weld with 2 hands. So this will be interesting. Spy with my little eye a turbo. Nasty setup right there, bud. Oh my god, that's sick! That is amazing. Look at that. That's exactly what I was going for. Peep that. Race car. Oh yeah! Zadio Spaghetti-O! Bo. Steady. Steady. Whoa. Whoa. This is the face of discomfort. Oh my god, I'm actually pissed. Okay? Turbo's on, but it was such a pain because technically you have to add filler for a joint like that to even tack. So I had one hand for the turbo underneath like this, and then another hand to like pray that it was gonna get tacked on. And I tacked it on last night and it was on, but it wasn't in the center of the pipe, so it wasn't gonna flow very good. So I stopped. I knew I needed to change it, and if I was gonna continue working, I knew I wasn't. So I stopped working, came in today, which is the day after, and reset it. And I've been pissed. It's been a time, but yeah, I don't usually get mad, but that was very frustrating because I would burn holes and stuff because I would try and melt it just enough, and then fuse the two together, but it was a nightmare to say the least. So, but we're on, and I'm happy about that. So now I just got to take it off and tack it up, hammer out the edges, like that, and weld it all the way in, and then I can worry about all the more complicated pipes like the wastegate and all that fun stuff. All right. Okay, I got it off. That was a nightmare. But yeah, I'm gonna tack it up, hammer out those edges and weld it up. But before that, I've got to clean all this stuff up from my embarrassing tacks. Okay, I'm gonna weld a bead on here and also here. Then I'm going to spin the pipe and hammer that down until it's flush with the T3 flange. Because right now that's not gonna flow very good. How it's way overlapped. You can see that it's way overlapped. So yeah, I gotta put actual welds on before I do that, or it's gonna distort everything, you know. Okay, I got the top welded up a bit. Now it's time to hammer this bottom part in. That wasn't bad, so I'm just gonna compress that as much as I can, tack it so it doesn't move, and then continue my welding. So that's much better. I'm gonna have to pickle fork that hard core, and those mediocre core. So I said screw that, and I'm gonna pickle fork it, because if I weld the other side, it's not gonna stretch the way I want it to. So I'm just pickle forking it out, getting to how it needs to be. I also had to fix my pickle fork, it was broken, so. It's kind of a spiritual thing, you know? It's just fucking. It's just like. Oh my god, this is interesting, eh? So, I think I'm good enough to tack the other side now. I'm just gonna do a little bit more. Yeah, okay, we're gonna be good. Alright, I need to do some more pickle forking. Get that stuff out and flush. Okay, here we go, using the best tool in the shop. I have it fitting pretty much perfect for my standards, and I'm just gonna weld it so it doesn't move while I ding the other ones in. Now it's time to pickle fork this side and then weld it up again. You know what it is, more pickle forking I've got to do and then more welding. It's gonna look sick though. Okay, back with this pickle ass thing. This doesn't look like a pickle, I don't understand. Doesn't make sense. Like, what? How would you come up with that name? Pickle fork. Oh, it's just a freaking. It's just a big screwdriver looking thing on the end of a doo mobile. What is going on? This thing just keeps popping out. Oh, the piece broke. Oh, great. weld my V-band on.
We're gonna keep it low-key, keep it softly spoken, with no strings tying you to me. I'm happy in your company with no emotion.
Now it's time to install the pipe I just made and install my turbo. Oh damn! Oh my god, that looks so good. Jeez. Wow, I'm impressing myself here. That looks sick. I'm so stoked. It's close to the front. It's right in the center of the eye of the turbo. Exactly how I envisioned it. That is sweet. So, I'm gonna make sure I've got enough clearance here. I just got really pumped. I had to share that moment. But from what I see, is that I've got lots of room. Like, that's not hitting the turbo. So, I don't know. I'm gonna have to get under there with a flashlight. Alright. Alright, underneath the car. And it's looking like I have some room, but not a freaking lot. So, I can clock the turbo towards myself, and that will help me get some sort of rubber on there and clamp. I'm gonna do a little bit of investigating and see if I can make that fitment work. And if it is, I'll tighten it down and move forward. Over here, I can see that I definitely am getting close to that hood there. I've got about 1/8, but I can obviously cut that out. But it seems like I have like a 1/4 inch above the turbo. So that is good news to me. And that's what it's looking like. So I'm gonna back up. So there's the turbo just chilling, waiting to be spooled. Yeah, I gotta make that work because the hood fitment's mint. So if there's clearance, I'm making it happen. What I'm kind of thinking of doing is taking the hood off again and putting something on top of the turbo and then putting the hood back on. So that's a good way to measure to see how much clearance I have, because this is the only piece of steel that's covering it, right? So I do have lots of room under here because it does bubble up pretty steeply. So I'm gonna be able to see how much room I actually have. I just did some investigation and it's looking like that is going to fit perfectly. I just have the skin on the top of the hood, so all it is for thickness is about that. And my hood's actually about right here at that point of the turbo. So I have about 3/4 of an inch the whole way. And I'm gonna clock my compressor housing down a little bit so I have enough room for a clamp and rubber there. But it's sick, man. It is sick. I can't wait to actually see it done, but I also can't wait to move to the next step. Alright guys, so that's how it's fitting. It's fitting sick. So the next step is gonna be putting a wastegate on. That's gonna be interesting, getting the pipes to mate properly. That's gonna be the next video. But for now, take in some turbo. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.